Media Prime. Today in the program, we are going to be looking at the recent U.S. Congress submission by Thibault Nash, who raised doubts on the possibility for a success on the planned reconstruction commission for the Northwest and the Southwest region coming weeks after the tour that was undertaken by members of this commission to the Southwest and Northwest regions. Many persons are asking the question why the outing at this juncture. Also trying to fathom the implications of the U.S. Position being expressed recently. We equally are going to be looking at the emblematic captain of the Indomitable Lions, Stephen Etatato, who died last Friday in Yaoundé. Many persons are also asking the question why heroes in Cameroon are dying in a very, very disgraceful fashion, knowing the circumstances under which Mamangeya Laroute died, Axel Muna, and persons like the famous Lisa T. What is happening to these Cameroon icons, those who have given their all to raise the flag of Cameroon very high? We're going to be discussing this with our panelists who are already in the house. Tamai Travis is in the house with us. Is going to be discussing with us on these two key topics. Good evening and welcome.
Good evening, Leonard. Good evening, Cameroon. Good evening to all those watching us from the different parts of the world, and special good evening to the American Senate, and why not to the President of the Republic, President Biya.
I hope he receives your greetings.
He definitely will receive. If he doesn't, his those who are there to gather information definitely will get the information. So good evening to him.
Okay, good evening to you too, Professor Mark Anthony.
Good evening, Leo, and good evening to my fellow panelists and to you watching us right now, and to all my family members wheresoever they are today. And I'm sure that this evening is going to be sound and educative, because here in this studio are individuals well grounded on issues which we'll be discussing about.
Also with us is senior barrister Ashu Emmanuel, who is equally the president of the Reform Party. Good evening and welcome.
Good evening, Leo. Good evening, fellow panelists. Good evening, televiewers. It's always a pleasure being with you. Hope we'll enjoy the evening.
I'll start with you, senior barrister. The outing of the U.S. diplomat Thibault Nash making a submission at the U.S. Congress recently has raised a lot of dust in Cameroon. Was there any change in American position after this outing whatsoever?
Well, those who think that the Mr. Thibault Nash's outing raised a lot of dust must not be very conversant with American policy, because the Americans, they always want to watch carefully before changing course. And I think these Americans are people who they know very well what is happening in this country. They've always told Cameroon that they know what is wrong, that Cameroon knows what is wrong, that Cameroon should address itself to the root causes of the problem. Now that Mr. Thibault Nash has come out clearly to tell the U.S. Congress that, look, Southern Cameroon or Anglophone Cameroons can no longer trust anybody to run their affairs for themselves. Well, one school may say, okay, this may mean that they now recognize the endeavor by Anglophone Cameroonians to completely shake off themselves from Francophone dominance. It may also be thought to say, well, this means he wants the government to give a clear thought to more governance, more self-governance by Anglophones, not the sham special status or decentralization, which does not entail any form of self-governance. Because when you talk of decentralization, that is direct rule from Yaoundé. So I think there is a clear shift, because Last time Mr. Tibo Nash went to the air, he said Anglophones needed real decentralization. And when we look at decentralization, this has nothing to do with self-rule. Decentralization is direct rule from Yaoundé, and it gives some small benefits. But when he talks of Anglophones not trusting anybody, and that the government needs to understand this position so as to know which way to go forward, I think he has made a great step, and I'm sure that the recent happenings around the country are shaping the American opinion, and we hope that the government is taking heed of this American position, because we need peace in this country, lasting peace. We don't want something that will fool us that there is peace tomorrow morning, then war starts again. So they should give us lasting peace that is based on well-grounded and elements that nobody can impeach. We have 2 states here that were supposed to have come together that never came together because the Union Treaty was not signed, and today it is dawning on everybody that yes, it is true that this Union Treaty was not signed. Look, Mr. Leo, last week I talked to the editor-in-chief of one of these local newspapers in Douala about the Cameroon air transport. And to my great surprise, when I reached his home, he sent me the picture of Cameroon air transport, the warehouse of the Cameroon air transport with workers standing in front. You see, this information is out there. People know, but they have been hiding it.
Yes, but my question,
my question is, so you see,
my question is on the position, the current position of the United States after the outing of Tibo Nash. Has anything changed, or he was just reiterating what he has been saying in the past?
Before answering if anything has changed, I think let me give a quote to his word that he said that any in the reconstruction,
we are going to come to
which he said
we are going to look at reconstruction.
No, I want to give his word. To give if anything has changed, you can judge the members of his word, and there are key indications that in the construction of North and Southwest region, there is a deep desire of the people of North and Southwest region to control their own lives, to have control over their own lives, until the government of Cameroon understand all these programs will not have success. Will not have success, and that was what he said in that. And if I narrow it down, meaning that first of all, it has not changed from the position of how he mentioned North and Southwest region. I think let's get that clear. When he mentioned the people of North and Southwest region, want a total control over their own lives. Now, from this nuance, you could get there is a seemingly not shifting position, but a position to reiterate that if you are not careful, this is what may happen. Because if you look at this first outing, he talked about effective decentralization, that the people of North and Southwest want effective decentralization, and now he went further and some other time and stated that the people of North and Southwest region needs that this dialogue should be speedy and they don't have trust over the government. Now this is his third outing, and from the language, few things have changed from the language he uses, but in terms of the US position, it has not changed. And when I say it has not changed, I'm basing my mind on his direct quotes, because the key words there are: one, the people of North and Southwest region. I think those are the key words. Second, want control over their own lives. The next issue is until the government of Cameroon understand what the control over their lives by who? The people of North and Southwest region. So you start taking into those factors, it gives you the ability that Tibo Nash is standing for an effective or what called federation, a two-state federation, because he said the people of North and Southwest region want control over their life. Therefore, we're talking about federation. To me, from one perspective, now the separatists may want to go their own way by saying that, by underlining the circle that want control over their life, by claiming that he wants independence. A federation gives you total control over your own resources. It's still the same thing. So if we look at this from that perspective, I want to tell you that the position has not changed, but they are reiterating the focus that, hi, this is what is happening, and you should know that. Remember that he was talking under the context of reconstruction. He was not talking under and US fund close to 80% of UN development projects, and the fundings that will be needed to reconstruct North and Southwest from UNDP will come from where the United Nations, which will give that money, and the US is part of the country that supplies majority of these resources. And if the US is raising doubt about a reconstruction project, know that there is something which It's happening. So I think from that perspective,
has anything changed in the U.S. policy towards Cameroon?
Mr. Leo, I'll be sincere to tell you that the United States policy had never changed when it comes to Cameroon remaining as a union, a state, a nation, united. But in relation to structure of its governance, I think that the position of the United States is actually shifting, because I want to say, when he came out and spoke about effective decentralization, I know Cameroonians actually interpreted it in relation to our understanding of decentralization. But the Americans know nothing about decentralization in the sense in which Cameroon knows. They know federalism. And federation, the decentralization is yes, he was talking about was actually in relation to people, the Northwest and the Southwest being able to govern themselves. And when he came out again this time and spoke about it, he was reminding the government of Cameroon to realize that every other project that they are putting in place, as long as they have not given those people their rights to govern themselves, everything they do will not be successful. So we might want to look at it as if he was struggling to say we need to these people will separate. No, we are not refusing that possibility is not there. If the problem is not well managed, it might end up in that position. But the position of the United States has not changed in relation to their policy with Cameroon. They were not in any support of separation. From that speech, from the words, he does not support separation. In relation to what Jarvis just said, in quoting his words, if you look at it, he targeted a particular committee that was established, which was the reconstruction committee. And he was saying, okay, if you put things you can reconstruct following the same policies you are using, it will not work, because these people, they are no more into it.
Yes,
he had already come up and said the people don't trust the government anymore, and if they don't trust the government, this time he's telling the government, if people don't see what is happening, it means that you have actually cast a blind eye. So you need to look deep, because the people want self-governance.
Okay, they want self-governance. What is the implication of this outing to Cameroon?
Well, Mr. Leo, this is something very difficult. I think we have to go back again a bit. Mr. Thibault Nash some other time said total independence from the Anglophones is not envisageable now. I think we can still remember that. He said it is not envisageable that Anglophones can have total independence now. Then after that, he said what Anglophones need is total decentralization, complete decentralization. And now he is telling the government, these people no longer trust you to manage their affairs. They want to manage their affairs themselves. I think there is a clear shift. There is a clear shift, because what is the degree of self-management? It doesn't tell you the degree of self-management. It's my guess. He can be a federation, he can be confederation, he can be total independence. It is my guess. I think this is a clear shift, because from people who are saying, from somebody who said total independence is not envisageable, to these people don't trust you, they want to manage their own affairs, there is a shift. And no, I think if that is my question, the government should take lead. My question does let me answer your question. What is the effect of that on Cameroon? The effect is that the government should take it, because when this man clearly says, insofar as you don't understand this, all those things that you are putting on the table are not workable. It is a way of telling them, don't allow this thing drift out of hand, because if you allow it drift out of hand, in other countries, in Sudan, they said no, it is not possible, but it ended up being possible. In Eritrea, it was the same thing. So I think the government has to be very careful, take Mr. Thibault Naji's heat, and make hay while the sun shines, because this thing can drift out of hand. Okay.
I think I want to add to what Senior Barrister is saying. We must understand this again. Their position have not shifted yet, but it may shift, because there is nothing like impossibility in the domain of conflict. Because we look at an example from the Anglophone crisis. When the crisis started, it was first of all a taboo to even talk about the word Amazonian. Second, it was a taboo to talk about federalism. Third, debate were banned, that they don't want to get debate on the ongoing Anglophone crisis. And fourthly, you could hardly hear people talk about it even at the level of government ministries and institutions, and even government secondary schools and universities. But now what has happened? As time moves on, the constant factor is time changes. As time moves on, position gradually shifts from one position to another. So I think that let's not get the people to understand that things can never change. But for now, maybe things are still the way they are. But as time goes on, if events and things are not properly handled or managed, who knows? The same thing happened in South Sudan. When Sudan, the period of the war between South Sudan and independence, it was like it's totally impossible. And it moved on, and gradually people shifted their position, and position shifted now to a South Sudan. Come to the state you have. So in this process, it's at the level of the government of Cameroon has that sole responsibility to save the union now, because they have the favor. The green light is with them. How should they save the union? By taking to the advice of Tribunage, because we have this issue in Cameroon where we say l'impossible n'est pas camerounais. We always circumvent the process, like nothing is impossible in Cameroon, and that is why when we look at the structures that are put in place, if you see what Tribunage said, he said all these programs introduced by the government will not be successful, meaning that he's rubbishing from the major national dialogue, he's rubbishing from the special status, he's rubbishing from everything, that it will not be successful. So it is time now for the government to sit back at the drum board. What did we get wrong? Maybe it's time we engage in federation. Maybe it's time we do this. Maybe it's time we give some mutual concession. Again, there is same thing to go to a no-state armed group, because as far as things are moving, don't be surprised that you hear about people targeting sanctions from both sides. If sanction is going to come, not one side will be sanctioned, both sides will be sanctioned. Like you are refusing to take effective dialogue, you are refusing to heed to call. Maybe we target the resources or assets of Mr. A, B, and C, and allow the things to move on. So I think in that line we'll be expecting things like that.
Okay, we'll be expecting things like that. He says that reconstruction will be difficult right now. Do you think that he has a full mastery of what is happening back here in the country?
Mr. Leo,
when he says it's going to be
America is not a country that you need to question their capability. America has a mastery of Cameroon beyond even some of our government officials. So they know exactly what is on the ground. They know what is happening in the northwest and the southwest more than we could even imagine. There are people who sit in Yaoundé and sit in Douala and sit in other places and speak without having facts on the ground. But these people, when they want to talk, they talk from facts. When you hear, and don't forget, he is the Secretary of State
under
Secretary for Africa Affairs. So he's speaking from the mastery of his own subject. So he knows what he's speaking. So I believe that the Tribunage actually has a mastery of the Cameroon affairs. So when he says that this reconstruction idea that is being brought and pushed forth will not succeed, he means business. Because Mr. Leo, before you look at it, you can't say you want to go for reconstruction and at the same time bullets are flying over the place, all over. I was in Bamenda the other day. I went to take my car back to Douala. My God, when I arrived Guarantee, I heard gunshots. I had to rush. That was around 6 on that Sunday last week, 6 p.m. So that should make you understand, in the middle of the town, it's not out of town. So you can't claim that there can be reconstruction when those bullets are still out there. So that man is not talking because he just want to talk. He's talking from facts.
He's talking on facts. I've just been joined by Ngate Leonard. Good evening, and we're glad to have you.
Good evening, Mr. Liu. It's a pleasure to join the panelists.
Okay, we are looking at the outing of Tribunage out there at the U.S. Congress, casting doubts on the possibility for the Reconstruction Commission to succeed in reconstructing these two regions. You think that he has full mastery of what obtains some ground?
To begin with, I must say that there are many people commenting on this issue about reconstruction. I just want to note that reconstruction has changed. Conflict has changed from what we usually know. Reconstruction is not just about building; it has to do with the mental, the moral, and every other thing. So, I would just have to say, my first point is that this idea of reconstruction is a good one. It's true that we are not following the normal procedure. You have to stop the fighting before going for reconstruction, but I think that it is timely. I think that it's timely, and I think that it will go a long way to help in this crisis.
Yeah, but he says that that the minds of the people are not in this reconstruction. You have been to Moyuka, you have been to Kwakwa, you have been to. Are you telling me that the people don't want their houses to be reconstructed, Tamai Travis? Because they are watching you.
99.9, in fact, all I spoke to are purely in favor of reconstruction. The problem they have is how. The one that, in fact, if you're
talking about the civilians.
Yeah, the civilians.
There are documentaries you have done in Ikuna.
Yes.
You have been to Kwakwa. You have been to all these regions.
Yes, I've been to Bole, Kwakwa, Nake, and all Kake. The one reconstruction. I spoke with someone, I captured his name, Adebayo, from the new documentary of Kwakwa, whom I asked him, he said if the reconstruction team can come now. But the only problem he has is, as he sees the bullet flying, he doesn't know how those people will be protected, but he wants that his home be reconstructed now.
There is a nuance. The people
totally buy the idea of reconstructing homes. They totally. If I tell you that they don't, whoever sits and says no, they don't want reconstruction is telling you
they want reconstruction.
They want reconstruction.
On what basis?
And they are praying that the gun should stop so that people can come, the government can come and reconstruct. And there's an issue that was raised. Maybe a lot of us did not notice. Was that they asked. The early phase of reconstruction, the one that it should be tailored towards their homes, not the hospitals, not the public institutions, because they are afraid that the government start with the public sectors, they may abandon the homes and they reconstruct their homes themselves. But to them, the focus should be reconstruct the homes of those who are in the bushes. When these people come back, they generate revenue and taxes to build back schools and other sectors. The focus to them now is not just schools, the health of those in the bushes.
Okay. He says the people want control over their affairs. As control, when he says control over their affairs, what do you make of this, Senior Barrister?
I said earlier that we have to be careful with that pronouncement because it doesn't give you the degree of control. It doesn't mention the degree of control. It can be anything.
He's talking as a diplomat. You are a Cameroonian.
Mr. Leo.
You live a reality. Yeah, you live a reality.
Mr. Leo.
Yes.
A diplomat talks in a very careful manner, and it may at times even talks in riddles or in tones.
Senior Barrister, you are the national president of a party. I'm sure you have representations in the Northwest and in the Southwest regions. You should give us information, credible information from the ground. What he means by control. What the people want.
Well, the people, like Mr. Thibault Nash said, don't trust anybody to manage their affairs for them.
Okay.
We don't want those fake messengers who carry different messages to their own day. The people want to manage their own affairs. That is to say, they should control the monies for the governance of their areas. They should control the budget. They should run their own services and control their social amenities. So, I mean, the people want to take their destinies into they don't want any more direct rule from your own day. Let me put it that way. Yeah, so no more direct rule. That's what the people want. They don't want any more direct rule from your own day.
Okay, they want indirect rule from your own day. Is that what you mean?
Well, indirect rule, I don't think that the Southern Cameroonians have been used to indirect rule, but since the British left, the indirect rule was transformed into parliamentary democracy. So I don't know whether we are carrying out some opinion sounding, but I don't see anywhere. Nobody has told me anywhere that he wants indirect rule. What I know is people don't want their own day to dictate their daily lives anymore. They should allow them alone. Let their governors. Let me say what people tell me. We want our rulers to be elected by ourselves. We are tired of appointment from Yaoundé.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay,
that's what it's supposed to be.
That's what people say.
Is that the reading you make out of what Tibonash says about the people who want control over their affairs?
Tibonash, first of all, whatever he said was diplomacy. He had to say what he said there. And to cue in from what Senior Barrister is saying, when they talk about decentralization, as it is written in our constitution, it means the people should have direct control. We want our mayors, the people want their mayors, their governors to come from among them. So I want to break in the same line as a barrister, because every people will want control by themselves to be able to manage their daily affairs practically. And I think that decentralization, if well managed or if well practiced, results to having control. So that's what I think.
That's what you think. Now, what about the elected officials? Maybe is he saying that the MPs who have been elected from within these regions, a host of others who are representing the regions in Yaoundé, are failed? And if they are failed, what should happen? Is he implying that new fresh elections be organized there?
It's not about fresh elections, but at times the people are not well represented by their those they are not well represented by those that elected. Practically, we have some MPs, to say the least, or some mayors who don't stay with their people. We don't even know what is happening. So practically, it's a call for our leaders whom we've elected to represent us well. So I think it's a call for concern.
It's a call for concern.
I want to be sincere. You know, it's not good to mince words when it comes to some particular things that are happening in Cameroon.
Okay.
So far in Cameroon, we don't have democracy. So far in Cameroon, we have not elected anybody. I'm not talking with water in my mouth, because we do elections, but those elections seems to have been predetermined. And most of the times we elect people. Why is it that there's always conflict after elections?
Are you saying that the Kabalibi was not elected? Is that what you're saying?
Kabalibi being elected.
Are you saying that Honorable Wiba was not elected? Are you saying that Donato in Kumbu was never elected?
Mr. Leo, when I say use that statement that we have never really had elections, is because body that is controlled by the government, which implies that whatsoever is happening out there in the field is manipulated. It is something that is predetermined, where they say, okay, we have 10 parties which we are supposed to reward. Then they give the members, they say you have to have 10 or this and that. So at the end of the day, what happens there? People who are genuinely entering for elections end up not having any position. So I want to believe that in relation to the words of the Tibonash, beg your pardon, from his wordings, you realize that he is speaking from what he has picked out of the ground. Individuals in the northwest and in the southwest are tired of the situation that is in the ground right at this moment. Nobody wants to sit and appoint people for him, for such a person to come and begin to.
Oh, you mean that somebody like the guy from Jumi Pinja was appointed, was decided in Yaoundé?
Mr. Leo, whatsoever happened there that he came up to be elected, that does not mean that there was an election. I have already said the body in control of election in Cameroon has a problem, and until that body is actually dismantled and officially reconstructed, because when we want to talk of that reconstruction, it should not be of the Northwest.
I'm not sure everybody wants.
Mr. Leo, people will not take my position in talking, but I need to speak so that they understand.
I'm queuing you now. We are not arguing now.
Okay.
I'm saying that I'm not sure that everybody who was elected in Cameroon would smile at what you are saying, because there are people who have worked so hard to get elected, and for them to get what you are saying, that their election was decided in Yaoundé. Yeah.
Mr. Leo,
it's a slap on
I hear what you are saying, but as I said earlier, it is simple and it is clear. As long as that body, the ELECAM, has only CPDM officials heading it, it is a.
Okay.
Let me not use the word.
Okay, don't use the word. Yes, there is an issue here with because I want us to really understand with the people who want to manage their affairs. Okay, let's assume that it is in the form of full decentralization or federation. how do you get the people managing their affairs in the state of affairs as it is today? Is it by reorganizing the elections, or what happens? How do they do that?
There are three categories of things to do in conflict to get the people organized or the people to manage their affair. The first is to accept that the people have a problem. The second is to issue an apology that you have poorly handled the issue. And the third is to constitute the people and ask them what exactly and how do they want it to be through what we call a referendum or a general Anglophone conference, or the various means in which they can have the people selecting their leaders and tabling their position. Whether we like it or not, Tibu Nash words can be interpreted in different facets and you still get an understanding. Let's be clear. The decentralists will tell you the people want to handle their affairs simply means that effective decentralization gives the people the ability to manage affairs. The confederalists will tell you, yes, the people want to handle their affairs because it falls under confederation. The federalists, two-state federalists will tell you the people want to handle their affairs because it falls under federation and that they manage their affairs. The independent, those for the restoration, will tell you that the people want to handle their affairs mean that it's complete and outright independent for the people to manage their affairs. In fact, we have a cacophony of people with different thoughts. But how do you harmonize this thought now? Because whether you like it or not, there's one thing that the people all want is the good of an Anglophone, if an Anglophone person to live in good health, to live in justice, to have good hospitals, to have good roads, to have adequate medical supply, to have all these things. That's why we have different roads all leading to one achievement. Now, but how should this be done? If the people want to handle their affairs, it should not be by reorganizing election for the parliamentary election that we all know, but is to give the people the voice to have an all-Anglophone conference, to select or to have one voice in that all-Anglophone conference. What is it that we actually need? Or to have a referendum. The people should choose what do they need in the referendum. In the referendum, we have those who will stand for different. You can put categories of the referendum. You can either vote by decentralization, federation, confederation, or separation. Cast a secret ballot. Now, when you cast a secret ballot, you know the opinion polls because nobody knows the exact thing that Anglophone, the exact population that stands for federation or decentralization. Many people are just afraid of the guns. To say that, okay, because of the guns and because of adoption, because of kidnapping, because of illegal arrest and the rest, it's difficult for them to come and stand and vote and say, okay, this is what I mean. But when you go to a secret ballot, behold, you get a total different scenario. So for these people who want to handle their affairs, I believe that a referendum that cuts across all the various categories of things that people need can be better placed. And that can honestly happen when you organize a dialogue. When you effective dialogue, when I mean by effective dialogue, I mean that dialogue where you start with creating an awareness from the people that are in charge. Who are those agitators? You identify them. The good thing is that the government already know that the non-state armed groups, those who are causing trouble, is the A, B, C, and D. You get to these people, they form a team. Ask them, give them an ultimatum that they should come together between this period and this period so that you can meaningfully have a decision. If they fail to meet that ultimatum, international community can give a targeted sanction. And the same thing, if they now can give a government an ultimatum by saying that, okay, we are coming together, you keep asking who do you dialogue with, we are coming together now as one force, and we are giving you between this period and this period so that we sit on the table and resolve a common difference. If you fail, you may have targeted sanction from the United Nations. I think in that regard, the conflict can still be managed. It's still not late.
Okay, yes, Donna.
I think the people want to manage their affairs has maybe nothing to do with elections. I think that everything will be fine if those elected actually do what they are supposed to do. Yes, and every other thing will be fine if everything is not centralized in Yaoundé. The problem is every other thing is centralized in Yaoundé. You might want to build a road, construct a road in Boya. You need to ask for permission to construct that road. You might want to build a market. You need to ask for permission. So the people wanting to handle their affairs, what I read from that is clear and simple. They want to be able to see how to coordinate their own daily affairs. They want to get up together with their elected leaders, maybe construct a borehole here, maybe get a road here for their own without waiting for a centralized system. So I think practically decentralization or what form of government, if they are given that power to manage their own affairs. So I think it's not about confederation and all the rest, or about not reorganizing elections as Prof is saying. It's simply giving the people the power, and even decentralization, if well managed.
That's your opinion.
If well managed, practically decentralization can do what can help people to manage
Well, he said
affairs.
their own was
Yes.
No, he just said that as Prof is saying. So
Prof, decentralization, if well managed,
Decentralization is no system of government. Does not work.
That's French.
it does not work.
Yes. Has it worked anywhere?
Well, please, can we now, when he says, is this a clear message to the government that over centralization is very, very problematic in Cameroon's context, especially with persons with two different cultural and educational judicial background?
Mr. Leo, that message is deeper than you are saying. Mr. Thibault Nash is clearly impeaching the governance, the present governance structure.
Okay.
And telling you that whatever thing you have in place is not workable. Please change if you want peace to reign. So when I hear people talking of decentralization, it's a joke, it's a child's play. Decentralization, there is no such thing in English. It's a French term, meaning that it takes more from a centralized government and give to some other communities.
That's not total governance.
We don't have that in English constitutional law, decentralization. This thing it is within the context of a unitary state. It is not workable. It has failed. They should look at something else. Mr. Thibault Nash is telling them, look, you started by putting one party, it did not go. You went to unitary state, it did not go. Now you say it did not go. You say special status. Please, all those things are not workable. Look for something that will allow these people exercise autonomy, govern themselves, manage their affairs.
Okay, but
so we are looking at other forms of the state that will enable Southern Cameroonians and other Cameroonians, it should not only be Southern, other Cameroonians have the possibility of running their matters themselves. But see, we should, because the message is very clear. But if you, so long as you don't understand it, all what you are doing is not workable.
Yeah, the message is
Mr. Leo, senior barrister, take for example, if federation is given as a solution, and if the leaders who are elected by Southern Cameroonians don't work well, would they not still complain? Is the problem about the form of the government or about the leaders leading their communities well and ensuring for the common good of the common in the street? Is the problem the form of the government, or the problem is leading well and providing for the common good?
Thank you for asking. If federalism were given,
yes,
sorry, it should not be given. If the people decide,
yes,
if the people decide on federalism,
okay,
that is what I would rather you say.
No, who is the one giving? Let me ask you a question. Nigeria is a federal state.
Is it failing?
Nigerians complaining.
Is it failing?
Is it failing in Nigeria?
Please.
So he sees the.
Yeah, but
he sees the.
Please. People are crying. Even in the United States, there are people who are sleeping outside. Now, what I'm saying is that is what Thibault Nash has said, the submission that he made to Congress, that Cameroon is a sovereign state. Are we saying that Thibault Nash is giving instructions on how Cameroon should manage its internal affairs?
You have to understand one thing. When you come back and you say Cameroon is a sovereign state, you start embarrassing people. I take you back again to the recent bill on the family code, which gives you two sovereignties, Southern Cameroon and Republic of Cameroon. So please don't go that way.
I'm asking a question.
I'm saying that because you start embarrassing us.
Are you placing taboo questions for me to ask?
I am saying that when you start going to sovereign state, you are one of those put in trouble, because our definition of Cameroonian, who is a Cameroonian? Somebody who is either from the Republic of Cameroon, which had independence on 1st of January, and told about Article 114 of the Family Code, or somebody who is from Southern Cameroon that had independence on 1st of October 1961. Those are the two ambits of Cameroonian nationality. So you have two sovereignties here. So you want to ask yourself, what happened to Southern Cameroon sovereignty? When was it transferred to Republic of Cameroon? You don't have that answer. So anyway, in diplomacy, America America is a friendly nation. It does not give instructions to other friendly nations. It gives you advice. Yeah, it's a friend. It gives you advice. You are free to take the advice or to let go. Nobody, they don't have a whip that they can come and whip you back. They do have the means of pressure. Like they decided to cut off their aid. That is part of the pressure. They have other things they can still suppress. They remove us from AGOA. That's another pressure. They have so many things. They have their agencies here, USAID, Peace Corps, and all that. They drive down the streets working with us. That is what I think that make you say Mr. Timo Nash is well informed, because American citizens are here with us. They are working with us. They are here. They are living with us. So they tell him exactly what is happening. So we are saying that America is not imposing on anybody. You have to understand something. The Americans are very cautious when it comes to Cameroon, because the Cameroon government want to say that America is taking sides. You have to be very careful. The Americans are always very careful. They say, no, please, we are not interfering. We are only advising you. They don't want to be seen as being hostile. A party that is hostile to the country. You remember the Minister of Treasury on Senate said, these people are interfering. So they don't want to be seen as people who are interfering. That is why they talk carefully. Say, please, if you want to do it, you do it. And we to always say so. This government, this current government, has the possibility of clearing this crisis on the table without even waiting for any foreign intervention. Okay.
You
see, if they do if they put this thing on the table and say, people want, so many people say they want independence, others want federation, let us get the thing. We are going back to 1961. Mr. Leo, the problem here, as I usually say, is that the Union Treaty was not signed. So if this government decides now to say, okay, what content can that Union Treaty have, and decide to apply the content of a Union Treaty without having to,
we are going to talk Union Treaty. We are going to talk Union Treaty on different platform. No, I'm not sure this is what we are discussing today, Senior Barrister.
It comes, no. Yes,
Mr.
Timon, I have told you that all the things you have done, please, will not work. Look for something else.
Senior Barrister, it seems as if you are giving us a different topic to discuss today, and even giving us the questions that we have to ask today.
I'm not giving a different presenter. I'm simply reminding you that Mr. Timon said, look, all what we have is not workable. Look for something that will give these people a whole easier.
Is this a call for the Commission to re-strategize, or the government as a whole?
Mr. Leo, I want to say it is a call for the government as a whole to re-strategize.
Okay.
Because from the very start of the crisis in the Northwest and Southwest, which was actually the climax of a generational boiling pot that exploded, the government has been failing in handling it. When I still sit on this table and platform and hear some of my brothers talk of decentralization, I feel disturbed inside my bones, because decentralization is no system of government that is workable, that is successful. Even the France itself is no more applying that same government system. Cameroon is still holding on to it. That is something that is not workable. And you see, like the barrister said, it is not an English word.
Are you answering my question?
I'm answering your question. Mr. Lee, I'm bringing you to the point where you have to understand something. The problem that we have today is not a problem of committees. The problem that is happening in the Northwest and Southwest is not a problem of construction or reconstruction. It is a problem of governance. And that is why when the problem started, the people rose up and said, give us federation. When they asked for federation, federation became a taboo word in Cameroon. People were locked up for such a word. But that is the reason why the two came together. The two states came together in union. And if we come to a place where, like Barrister said, the union is not a union because it was not signed. It was supposed to be a union, but it was not signed. Yes, that's history. But now that we are in it, I think that if the government needs to succeed, the government needs to get to a place where it realizes that all the various measures that have been put on the table has not been accepted by those in question. You see, at this particular moment, there are individuals, for example, who were happy that decentralization. Those who spoke of special status when we went for the national dialogue, they came back, special status. The question is, what is the content of the special status? It has not been disclosed till this particular moment as we are talking. It has not been disclosed. And so, if it happens that the content of special status has not even been disclosed, the question we should be asking now is, what is it that you want that the people should use? And so I think that the Cameroon government needs to re-strategize. For them to re-strategize, they need to go back to the drawing board and say, okay, this is where the problem is. Let us rectify this problem. For a long period of time, they have been calling for dialogue. Nobody's reacting. Now, if Tibo Naji comes out and is presenting a strong point, he says the Cameroon government needs to understand that everything that they have been putting to the table is not working. So they need to understand that the people need to govern themselves. That is a strong statement which is supposed to be actually swallowed. And if the Cameroon government rejects such advice and counsel, it means that they are heading towards a wrong direction. And heading towards this direction, what I am saying, if the Cameroon government does not take to such advices from such friendly nations, I call them friendly. I want to be sincere with you. I'm not saying that, listen, I'm somebody who stands completely against the West's influence in Africa. And when I speak, I am speaking because of the sufferings of the people that I'm seeing on the ground. He did not impose on Cameroon. He spoke his own. Cameroon can take it or not. But I will be sincere that if Cameroon needs to stand and not go into the drain as it is going right now, we need to get to a place where our government reacts to give the solution to the people that they have been asking for. What is that solution? The people want to govern themselves. Governance does not mean that you sit and appoint a governor to come and govern them, or you should elect a mayor. When you elect a mayor, you send a DO. The DO controls the mayor. That is no leadership. And once you do that, you have already blocked even the leadership. And you expect that the mayor should succeed. Those things like that are not workable.
The question is it an issue of the personalities, like he said earlier on? Because
Mr. Leo, it's not personalities. You see something. The leadership structure, yes. Now, Mr. Leo, you get to that. Leadership structure has something to do with that. Individuals might come and fail, but once the structure is well placed, we can remove the person who is not a good leader by elections. But most of those who have not been elected, Mr. Leo, you are right.
Please, what's the leadership structure in America? Can I ask you?
Please, you are not.
I want to cue in for.
You are not the journalist. You let him talk.
It seems as if you guys came today to moderate for me. You people can continue. Yes, people can continue. Pose your questions and the other person answers. Yeah, because seemingly before you are invited here, you are given topics to come and debate on. But everybody comes on the panel and wants to say their own. I don't know whether we are campaigning for something else than educating the people. Sincerely, because I am the presenter, I'm embarrassed by what is happening here. Sincerely, you ask a question, people say something else, and I'm asking.
Mr. Leo, you are the moderator. Go ahead.
No, you guys are the moderators today. Now, is this a call for the government to sort things out?
Like I earlier mentioned, Mr. Leo, that the government has what we call in French favor, the green light to properly handle things. And if we are now in the period of August, September, October, November, December, may countries start changing their policies by the end of the year, because I believe that maybe you have some difficulties within the mid-year that you may not have been able to achieve. And looking at the calendar of this armed conflict, the peak period always begins from September, October, November, and December. Then January, there's a kind of a break. Ending January, we start hearing about a peak period because of what we call 11 February. And after that period, now there is a break. Now we win as a break between March, April, May, June. No, March, April, May. Now between March, April, between May, you start having another armed conflict because of 20 May. So we are now enjoying relatively peace. Now the government needs to seize this opportunity. How should they do this? First of all, like I earlier made mention, the government should come as one voice, because the ministers are still deeply divided. A minister says something else, and let me give you an example. Paul Tasson was talking about it, was saying that there are no people living in the bushes. That is coming to reconstruct. Now you get another CPDM member on the panel sent by the team who tell you that there are people living in the bushes. You ask yourself, where are we getting the information? The next aspect in terms of the division within the government is not just the separatists who are divided. Both parties are divided. If you cannot say aspect of the government in terms of reconstruction, let me ask you, they came and ended in Buya. Limbe were invited, and some in Bamenda. How many of this team, how many of them has actually moved down to the field? They can move down to the field, they have the resources, the disposition. How should they now move to the field and reorganize themselves to change things? It depends on who they invite back on the deliberation. How many people were invited from, let's say, Ekona?
Okay, we are going to take a short break. When we come back, we continue with our second topic for today. Welcome back. You are watching Prime Hour on my Media Prime. We are this time going to be talking about the demise of former skipper for the Indomitable Lions, Stephen Tato, who died in Yaoundé in a very sorry situation described by many as very miserable, regrettable for somebody who has given so much to Cameroon and was left to die like a nobody. We are going to be looking at what is happening with the treatment reserved for heroes, those who have fought tooth and nail for Cameroon. I start with you, Tamai Travis. Your take when you heard that Stephen Tato died in the manner in which he died.
Well, you know that it is difficult for us to actually understand the circumstances prevailing, the non-respect of icons, especially when it comes to football icon, is like there's a kind of segregation in doing that. Tato Stephen is someone who took Cameroon to doing the 1990 World Cup, and he was fierce and defiant in terms of defending the green, red, yellow. We saw how he played the match between Cameroon and Argentina when he actually stopped Diego Armando Maradona, and within that period he had a kind of team leadership which most of his teammates explained that he was too he had a united spirit which he brings players together and ensured that they fight for a common goal. And to see that he was sick and it was not much tribute, attention was not given, it's sad. It just goes to tell us that there is still that deep Anglophone divide, because when you look at Ringobe Song Bahana, who was sick, he was flown out of the country and adequate treatment was given to Ringobe Song Bahana. He's a captain. Tato Stephen too is a captain, though they play in two different eras. No, some play with Tato Stephen, so cannot say they play in two different eras. They played in the same 1994. So we're expecting this kind of treatment, and we still have other players, not Tato. My plea now is not just going to Tato, who is dead. We have other players who have done well. Where are they? But you will be surprised that when this same person died, we have tribute upon tribute and special programs from TV stations to radio stations to media, blog, and the rest. My question now is, what becomes of the services they perform? They are like soldiers of Cameroon. They are the other soldiers of the forefront. They are the sports soldiers who defend the interest. If Cameroon is known today, it's because of Argentina and the 1990 World Cup, where Cameroon actually played with Argentina by stopping the almighty Argentina and making Maradona to see that he cannot persist. That's why if we watch the jingle for the FIFA World Cup, we always see Roger Milla and you see they talk about Cameroon. If you talk about Cameroon in some other countries, the first thing that comes to your mind is Samuel Eto'o. The first thing that comes to your mind is 1990 World Cup winner Roger. But it's sad to see that icons like that are not taken care of. And we should now ask ourselves this question: what will happen to the others who are still living? Like Nku, we have Kondo, we have even David Pius, we have a lot of others who don't say come on and keep track of his soldiers anymore.
So when Fili died.
So you start looking at this situation.
Benjamin Massing died.
Good. You are just confirming. And at the end of the day, when they die, look at the state burial they are being given. Even for Mark Vivian who died, with much promises that were made, how many has been realized? How many? Very few has been realized, but you see the beautiful speech. It goes back to the context of governance. I think from that perspective, the sport sector is not disciplined.
The sports sector,
not really disciplined.
The sports sector is not disciplined.
The Ministry of Sports is not disciplined.
Yeah, Professor Mark Anthony, what would account for the neglect that is accorded heroes of this country?
Mr. Lee, shameful that a nation where individuals, or let me use the word soldiers, go to war and fight for the sovereignty, comes back and abandoned. Such a thing makes you to feel like Cameroon seems to be a nation where generals kill their wounded soldiers, and once a soldier is wounded, they are killed, not knowing that they are supposed to tend to their wounds because they can be of help tomorrow. I think if people like Tato Stephen, after having since he's one of those guys who brought the 1988 Nations Cup, and bringing the 1988 Nations Cup, 1990 he was the captain of that same team, and that is a year that Cameroon got prominence out of this continent of Africa. So people like that who
was still there in 1994,
and he was still there in
1992. I think we played the Nations Cup to the level of semi-finals.
Yes. He was there in 1994. Normally, with the disgrace we had, but that does not mean that such a person who has put everything should come back and be neglected. I am sure that the same treatment that was given to Song Bahana when he was sick, if it was given to such a person, he would have been he would not have died. Dying at the age of 57 is really not an age for a young man like him to die. It's because we call him a young man. At that age, he's still young. So he's still young to die at that age. So I think that something should, when you start looking at it, you want to start asking questions. Is it because he's an Anglophone? No, but I don't want to put it that way. Because I think that he is not the only one. There are others of his colleagues who had been neglected.
We saw the way Massing died.
Fide. Okay.
Yeah.
So all those people, when they are neglected, you start asking, what is the problem? But you look at it, you discover the problem is the governance, Mr. Leo.
Okay.
The system put in place to govern football should see into it that veterans are taken care of after they come back and are settled at home. They should be taken care of. For those who are, for example, didn't make it like the Milan Roger, because Milan Roger came back since he got his French nationality, came back, he had opportunity to be appointed as a roving ambassador in Cameroon. That it makes a difference. Okay, you look at people like Etofis who personally have made their way out. In that generation, those guys didn't have the opportunity people like Eto are having today. They played the football, but they didn't have the teams that could pay them the amount of money that they are paying today. So the Cameroon government and the federation, the FECAFOOT had the authority, or let me say, they were the ones who were supposed to be taking care of such responsibility. It was their responsibility to actually take care of such persons.
Okay, now, Senior Barrister, I want us to take a simple illustration that the minister dies or some politician dies, and we see the way he's treated, the treatment that is given such a person for serving the nation, and then we have guys like this who have stamped the face of the nation globally. Who has contributed more to Cameroon and is not given his or her due?
Mr. Leo, I'm very embarrassed because we are talking here of the captain of Cameroon national team, and we forget that the first captain, the president of the republic, is lying somewhere out of the country. Amadou Ahijo, the first footballer. Where is his cups? I mean, we are here. This is a captain of the Indomitable Lions. Who gave that name to that team? Where is he? You see? So it is a real problem. This nation is still looking for its feet. It is not just a matter of footballers. I heard somebody talk about, let us not say it's Anglophones. You are very correct. Because Jean-Paul Akono almost followed the same way if he were not rescued by Etofis.
Yeah.
Etofis rescued Akono. The coach going down the same way. You see, Mbappe Lepe. We see how all of them go. The system in place has no value for talent, has no value for heroes. Where people have been singing, oh please, Japoma Stadium should be named after Roger Milla. They want to wait for him to die before they'll come and say, posthumously, that stadium has been named after Roger Milla. What nonsense. Look, you see, if these people cannot govern this country, let them leave it. Some of us are capable of governing it and giving the heroes the position that they deserve. How can our head of state, the first head of state of this country, die and the corpse is still outside till today?
First captain.
The first captain, the man will give that name to the team. He is outside. The corpse is outside. Look, this is very embarrassing. I'm very sure that this was just really unfortunate, because had the population known that Tato Eta Stephen was in this position, many people would have contributed. I would have personally put in something if I knew that he was in this situation, because a few weeks back, Blaise Antoine said something and Tato replied. He replied and put Blaise in his position. So I never even knew that he was sick. You see, if people had known that this man was sick, popular contributions would have helped to put him back. I think that something has to be done. We cannot have a country where it is because the man who was there is your brother and you are minister of this, they carry state resources to go give you state burial. No, you see, as I was saying, if these guys don't know what to do, let them back out, because this, we cannot continue to allow this. Your heroes don't have any recognition. They have no recognition.
Can we describe Cameroon as a country which uses and dumps you once you are no longer of any use to it?
With the situation at hand, given all the possible indicators in which our heroes, our icons are not well treated, because in other countries like that, captains of their national teams or these icons and all the rest, once you retire after having served the nation, after having put the nation to that level where Tato Eta Stephen as the captain of the 1990 and 94, practically he deserves something like he would have been sent to a ministry somewhere, or he would have been on salary somewhere. So practically it's a problem with Cameroon. What about those in the music sector? We heard Mama, they are almost all Manu Dibango, all the rest. And what about our churches? All pastors, all priests, do they actually care for themselves? I just think it's practically a system of using people when they are gone. You see those old priests, you see those old pastors, you see these musicians. Once you leave the stage, they are abandoned. It's actually there should be a system that will cater for them. Afterlife, there should be something that will cater for the afterlife, because everyone is not lucky, opportune to have to make it happen. But you can imagine, I'm sure people like Maradona, Zidane and all the rest, their countries respect them and they take care of them. But here in Cameroon, once you are gone, if you don't have money, you don't have influence and power, that's all.
You are forgotten.
I think it's a call for concern. Actually,
is it not also tied to the issue of the over-centralization of powers, where people are afraid to take initiatives for fear of how the presidency would judge that action? For example, if Sam Bahanak was taken out of the country, it was thanks to high instructions from somewhere.
I would not want to buy that idea of high instruction, because people hire the canopy of high instruction not to do good job.
Yeah, but what if the president had ordered for him to be evacuated?
Yeah, the president gets or give order on evacuation based on the reports he received.
Okay.
Let's be clear. And let's be clear that how was the situation managed? People hide under this canopy of I cannot go beyond what I have not received and behind they do other dirty things. Let's be honest here. The Ministry of Sport is not that organized. The truth is they don't keep track of the icons. Yes. No. Let me give this simple analogy. A football player is like a soldier on the battlefield. Yes. Because the risk of football is higher than even that of a soldier. Yes, the risk is higher than a soldier, because there are head-to-head collisions. There are collisions that you get on the floor. There are times that they hit you in a spot where you have a lifelong injury. Even after retirement, you keep feeling the pain, and sometimes it might lead to something else. What are the regulations to ensure that, okay, if you are in the national team, or you're in the first division league, or you're in the second division league, recognized by the state, and at the end of the day, upon retirement, do you have some kind of benefit, social benefit, health benefit? What kind of benefit do you have in order to ensure that it sustains you after active service? Because football is a game that you must have a post-injury and after injury, whether we like it or not. And defending the interest of the nation, there are times you go on a collision with someone that you may end up losing your leg, you may end up losing your chest, you may end up losing your life support. We have been an incident like that. And at the end of the day, how is this situation managed? Sometimes laws are not made to protect these people. I keep saying that the sporting sector has been grossly abandoned. If it's politics, that person would have been taken care of. Because maybe it's because he chooses not to identify himself to a particular political ideology that people are not giving him affiliation. Let's say he belongs to a particular party. But he's someone who chooses to remain neutral by serving his country from a political perspective. And I think that we have other people who, by virtue, I don't want to call names, we know them. When they went out of Chile, they came and wore the fabric of a certain party, and they were campaigning for a certain political candidate. We saw it, we know. Maybe it's because of the fact that he did not affiliate himself to a particular political party. But how shall we continue to live under this affiliation of political parties? The Ministry of Sport, they are yet to give an account of how Tato was living and how he died. Instead, we are yet to witness an official statement from even big icons like Samuel Etofis and the rest. We are yet to see official statement.
Samuel Etofis has officially.
If he officially reacted, it comes days after he died. Such an icon die immediately. We should see immediate reactions. We should see. Foreign players did that before home-based players. Because if Fekafu could do that, we asked ourselves, they should not hide under. We didn't take the head of state to say Fekafu should issue a statement that he's dead. Will you take the head of state for Fekafu to say, okay, so you need your sport to say, okay, we have a player that is sick. Let's see how the sporting world can get him or her the attention he or she needs. Will you take keeping aside that, let's look at the laws. Social benefit, health benefit. If a player retires, what does it take for that player to live his life? Because that player, you are paying that player, yes, but defending the interests of Cameroon, he has that legal right after the artist to be taken care of, because you're defending your country. What about pension? How many of them have pension? They don't have how many of them? You take a player and that player play for 2 seasons. You take a player and that player play for 2 seasons, play for first nation call, second nation call. After that, you don't call that player again. That's all about him. But what of the injury he sustained from the first injury, defending the green, red, yellow, the old Cameroon cradle of our father? It's not there. So our legislators who are in that parliament should not just debate budget. They should debate laws that will protect the sportsmen and women who defend the interests of the country, and not just at the level of international scene, but at the level of Koto Sport, Kumbu Strikers, PWD. All these levels need to be protected because these are games that deal with direct collision. It's very important.
Can you also say that it is because the sporting world in Cameroon, for the most part, is being run by business persons and not the players themselves. Yes, we've seen how difficult it has been for Bel Joseph Antoine to be able to manage affairs. We see the opposition that Didier Drogba is facing from within his own country. Yes,
Mr. Leo, I want to also say that should be one of the reasons, because I think that when they talk of the Fekafu should be handled by those who have played the game, who know the game, who have mastered the game and know the field very well. They know the after effects of actually playing and coming back home to sit at home and retire. Antoine Bell tried. I'm sure if he was in that particular position, he would have been able to think on how they who had played and those who had played before them could be looked after. But because most at times they are looking for the person who can bring much to the table than the person who has the capability, so they are not even looking at the person who is competent, but the person who can bring much to the table. That becomes the limiting factor of actually getting the right persons to manage such bodies. And I will be sincere, what Jarvis just mentioned there is, I think that is what we should be talking about here, because Mr. Leo, I can't imagine that there are no laws that actually protect players who had played to defend the colors of the nation. Once they come back retired and they stay at home, they are abandoned. I was watching, I've forgotten this guy's, the other one's name, who he had the prostate cancer. Yes, it was Etofis who actually saved his life.
Yes, I forgot. Yes.
It was over Equinox almost constantly. It was Etofis who saved his life at the end of the day when he was about to die. He cried and asked that the nation should help. Nobody responded. So when you see things like that, you start asking questions. Who are those running this nation? Who are those running these bodies? Because, Mr. Leo, like you put it, if you take a businessman who is thinking on how to make his money to run something technical as such, he will neglect people and think of his money.
We are also talking about what they call professional solidarity. You easily feel for
the next person who is suffering like you, because you will know that, okay, if this person is this way, I've been through this, I know what this person is going through. But Mr. Leo, there is a problem.
Okay, there is a problem. Is it also about politicking and the eternal fightings, wranglings between the Ministry of Sports and Fekafoot and other bodies, including politics, in this whole management of Cameroon's football?
No, sir. I think the problem, we should look at it objectively.
Okay.
The problem is that football in Cameroon has always been looked upon by the government as something coming from outside. You see, by the rules of Fekafoot, the government is not supposed to.
FIFA.
By the rules of FIFA, governments are not supposed to meddle with the affairs of the football or the sporting federations. So you see, the government always, even when they are trying to come closer, they don't get too close. But like Professor said, we are talking here about people who are national heroes, people who have defended the national colors, and there is, I think, a decree on the national team. That is where we ought to strike the nail on the head, because there is no form of social insurance. Now look, when you go to primary schools, children who participate in these FENA school games, there is insurance. But why would FECAFOOT not subscribe social insurance for the players? Why? You see, at first CNPS did not have the possibility of admitting people who are not civil servants. Now they have that possibility. What stops FECAFOOT from affiliating footballers in the social insurance scheme, so that we don't have these footballers dying in misery, in sorrow and pain, in want? No, I think that there is the other aspect too. You see, there is this aspect of jealousy.
Okay.
No, we have to say it. There is this aspect of jealousy. Many civil servants are jealous of the sportsmen, because look, take the coaches. When a foreign coach is coming, they want this coach to be paid 75 million a month. If it's a Cameroon, they say no, you should be a civil servant.
10 million.
Who's 10 million? Are they giving him 1 million? No, they want him to be given the salary of category A4. Wonderful. I mean, it's jealousy. Allow your citizens who are qualified to get the same salary like their colleagues from other parts of the world.
Right.
Why do you put your noses at things that don't concern you? The Cameroonian coach who coaches in Brazil, is he a civil servant in Brazil? If he leaves Brazil and comes to Cameroon, let him have the salary that he was getting in Brazil. Why do civil servants put their noses inside the salaries of sportsmen? They get jealous. Like the players who are called to national team. Many of these civil servants who are going there to go and supervise, they want these boys to be sharing their monies with them. Please, no, we have to mention these things. So you see, they should hands off and put up a scheme, a social insurance scheme, that should enable these people, after footballing or after whatever sporting event they are carrying out, to be able to sustain themselves in times of want.
Okay, let me
So I don't think it's a matter of politicking.
Okay, my point is both parties to the conflict need to come to a consensus, keep aside the nuance and semantics, and consider a holistic approach. It is rather pathetic that we have stronger persons than institutions, while on the other hand, our people don't know the reality on the ground. Our regional and continental organization also has a role to play, and they must do so without politics. J.N. Agbo writing with regards to sports, it's a sad situation. Most, if not all, regulations have been put in place, but poor leadership has ruined the greatness of these institutions. Still, the main issue is stronger persons and weaker institutions. J.N. Agbo, good evening to you. This one, Ojong Emmanuel writing from Bomenda says, Mr. Leo, good evening. We can say the people don't want reconstruction of their houses. We must know people live in fear to accept openly. The reconstruction, as I said, will bring more unity. Okay, your panelist is talking as an opposition to the government, and those are the people who think by this way they will defeat the CPDM. In power, we need peace. If the government has destroyed houses and come to reconstruct again, it shows a way of asking for forgiveness. Let us forget who did this or that. Ojong Emmanuel, good evening to you. Hi, I'm Franklin from Oklahoma, United States of America. They don't care about people on retirement. That's one of the reasons government officials embezzle a lot of money to keep for their retirement benefits. Okay. This one says, good evening to you all in the studio. The president of Madagascar. No. Good evening, Mr. Liu, and everyone in the studio. Cameroon is the world's this country. Okay, this Your message is not good. I won't read it. We should be decent with our messages, please. Good evening, Mr. Liu. I'm Zip Samuel, writing from Funi Village. Thanks for bringing Barrister on the show. He has spoken what is in my mind. The problem is governance. Look at Jean-Paul Akono, who is willing to put in his best so as to improve the national team, yet he has been thrown away. Okay, this one says, hello, Leo. Greetings to you guys in the studio. I wish to find out from you if Tato Stephen did not receive pay in the days he played football in Cameroon or defended his country. How many teachers die every day? How many teachers die every day and no one hears about them? And how much they have put into train Cameroonian youth? Does it mean teachers are less important? I think we are all supposed to save for rainy days. We are all Cameroonians with equal rights to stop behaving as though some people or professions are more important than others. Celestine,
I want to react to that.
Boya, you are going to react, please. Let me take two messages. Hello to everyone in the studio. I'm Jarvis from Bamenda. Okay, Jarvis, good evening to you. Any message that is insultive, please, I won't read them. This one says, as we speak now, there is serious gun shooting in Boya. I don't know yet to confirm. Yes, I want you to react first, coming before it comes.
I want to react to that message which talked about that teachers are less privileged. Let's get this clear. All teachers, whether private or non-private, they have social insurance benefit, except a private school is not paying your social insurance. And it is your right as a teacher to go for that social insurance, to take your school to labor, because you must have a social insurance and your CMPS number. Let's get that clear. The second issue is with the level of football players don't have social insurance benefit, because the social insurance gives you there's a particular period where you must have that you save for social insurance before you can receive a retirement benefit. Now for football, maybe they can say, okay, you're a footballer, because they can call for one season and they don't call you for the other season, football season. And once you are called, the effect of football is different from the effect of teacher. We are not saying they both are not important, but there's a kind of job that you do that has a post-traumatic effect, and there's a kind of job you do that does not have a post-traumatic effect. So if you have a footballer, you're a footballer, maybe the same person should say that, okay, for rare exception for sport men and women, they have a kind of social insurance scheme where it's expected that they save this number of money, which may not be as applied to a teacher, which they expect that you must have taught for close to 15 to 20 years before you start receiving your benefit. So that person should understand that he has not getting the fact straight. Teachers have the social insurance benefit.
Okay, good evening, Mr. Leo. I enjoy you and your panelists. We should understand that football is one of the highest paying sports in the world. Where is all the money earned by some of these players? We should talk on the issue of some being evacuated for medical care, and why not Tato? Dan is writing from Boya. This one says, my point is both parties in this conflict need to come to a consensus. Okay, this other one says, Abdul Salam from Bamenda says, greetings to everyone in the studio. Only bad leadership can account for what is happening in Cameroon. Good evening to you in the studio. I'm Paul Tangufo, writing from Douala. I appreciate your efforts, especially Senior Barrister. I respect him so much. I want to ask that why can Cameroon not choose players and train them well who can defend the nation for at least 10 years consecutively? Why keep changing players every year and end up abandoning them with no pay? But some persons are raising the question that these players, some of them receive big wages. Why not also save for rainy days?
It's in a two-way. Players too receive money, have to save, like any of us, have to save for rainy days. And also the government or whoever is in charge of this social insurance or whoever is in charge of these players, like Javis said, these players are icons. They serve the nation like teachers do, but they serve the nation in a different way. They represent the country out and they bring glory to the nation. So I think that they are to be taken good care of. Social insurance, whatever, health, hospital, whatever, and their benefits after they must have gone. I think it should be taken care of. But man, I have a little worry too I want to raise the question of there's really a problem of accountability too and leadership. We are talking about these players. What about the normal civil servants who after retiring they spend ages to get pension? What is happening? That's the problem. You have
to pay money to some people.
You pay money to some people. You travel here and then you go to Yaoundé. A mama will leave from Ekiliwindi just to come to Boya to pension. You go back. You have to come and stay for 2 days. So it's a problem, like you said. It's a problem of leadership and accountability. Those put in these offices should think about the common good and not just of their personal interest, because it's a lot of personal interest. That's why things are not going on well.
That's why things are not going on well. But let's come back to the issue of the solidarity amongst the players. Have we seen enough solidarity amongst players? And why not, by extension, the musical world and other core? We are journalists also. We may be talking of Tato today. Who knows about some of us tomorrow? Yeah.
Mr. Leo, talking about solidarity, it seems as if in Cameroon that word is actually removed out of the dictionary of Cameroon. Why? Because there is so much division amongst our various associations, our various organizations, our various ministries and whatsoever exist. If you look even at the football, the team itself, the Cameroon Indomitable Lions, you look from across, let's say from 1990 coming up to present date, you discover that they were constantly infighting. Who should do what? Who should stand? Who should be this and who should be that? And tribalism comes in also at the end of the day, and there's division. And so, talking about solidarity, you realize that even though somebody feels like this person is part of me doing the same thing I'm doing, at the end of the day, because maybe he does not fit in the camp in which he falls into, he will neglect such a person. You see, we just spoke here and I said something concerning how Etofis came in to help one of the let me say was it Akono? There's this guy who had that his name. Yes,
an old player.
Old man.
It's an old player.
He was rescued by Etofis. I think that such a thing happened because maybe he looked close to the situation and said, okay, if I don't do it, this will be a disgrace. That doesn't have something specific that we could just say that came to the screen that people actually went to take. I am asking questions. Is it because of the divisions, or is it because of tribalism, or is it because of regionalism or nepotism, or what is the cause of all that? So at the end of the day, Mr. Liu, we have so much division in Cameroon that we talking about solidarity seems as if we are creating an extraterrestrial word to fit in a situation which is actually complex. Cameroon has a complex problem, which at times, if we struggle to describe it, becomes a problem too in itself. So we need to go beyond solving the problem from outside.
Now, it is true. I raised the issue of centralization. You said no, but let's look at somebody like Anne-Marie Nze. Yeah. She was rescued because the president of the republic decided that Son Bahana was taken out of the country because the president decided that, and it means that without the president, nobody is rescued in Cameroon.
Well, Mr. Leo, you see, before I come to that one, we have to. There is one
message.
Yes, somebody who said the players were supposed to save for the rainy days. I want to say here that we should not lose sight of the fact that in the days of Tato Stephen, footballers were not playing for money.
It was love
we
for
all saw Roger Mila when he came from the World Cup. He didn't have money. He did not have money. They were not playing for money. I mean, the money he was making was from his club as a professional. They were not going there because of money. It's not the same thing like today when a Tofis will sign a juicy contract. Bazogo and all these young people will go and sign juicy contract. It's not the same thing. So we have to take care of these heroes. Let us look around. In Nigeria, when the Golden Eagles won the Nations Cup, each of the players received a villa from the state. They were all given one house, one villa, and a vehicle. What Cameroon has won this Nations Cup how many times?
Well, 5.
What did our country give our players upon these numerous victories? Nothing. In Ghana, it was the same thing. When they also won, their state also gave houses to the players. So I think that in our own context, it would be a nice thing for the National Social Insurance Fund and FECAFO to sit down and batter out a social insurance policy for the footballers, so that we don't get into this trouble anymore. So that the players who are playing today can save for the rainy days through the social insurance scheme that can be put in place. Now, you come now to the case of the president has ordered. We heard in the case of Mamangeya, that Minister of Culture, disbursed, what was it, 20 million or what? Now, you see, I said earlier, nobody heard anything about Mr. Tato Etastifi. We don't know whether he presented a file somewhere and the file was kept secret.
No, the amount that was given to Mamangeya was not up to $1 million.
I don't know. We heard
up to $1 million fans.
We were not up to $1 million.
But something was given. Something was given.
Yeah.
So you see, we don't know whether Mr. Tato Etastifi presented a file somewhere. But the head of state cannot act verbally. A file has to be taken to him. So if you bring up a file and say, okay, please, we want this man to be evacuated. To be.
So the problem is with the respective persons in charge.
First of all, if you are suffering, I don't let any person know that you are suffering. How do you want the world to know you are suffering? So if you are suffering and you take your problem to somebody, then you can expect to get help.
So Tato stayed quiet.
I don't know.
No one knows.
I don't know whether he did something. But I am calling on this remaining high court. Please, if you are in problems,
make sure you
talk. Make sure you ask for help. Make sure you present something that can call people's attention. It happens even to my colleagues with us at the bar. If somebody is ill, we don't want you to say I am ill. I need money. Once you are ill, all of us contribute and make sure that you get out of there. You see? That's a solidarity. We all put our hands on deck and say, let him get out of there. So I think it is the same thing. These footballers should not wait. They shouldn't wait until death comes knocking at the door. If you are in trouble, please, and you know that you don't have the means, call for help.
Okay. Hi, good evening, Mr. Liu. My name is Edwin, writing from California in the United States of America. Sorry for my late response. Just a quick question. How much did our players make as compared to nowadays? And again, they don't have any retirement benefits like I hear. Somebody said they should save for rainy days. Okay, Edwin, good evening to you. And this one says, Mr. Leo, what's wrong with my message? Mr. Leo, you trying to say Tato was well paid. He played when football was free. Okay? Mr. Leo, I'm really enjoying your program. Yeah, okay. Abdul Salam, thank you very much. I'm glad to know that. Kevin, writing from Bomenda, good evening to you. Kevin, and to all of you watching us via social media, is this also a greater call? No, greater call for solidarity amongst the players. They have seen what happened to Marcin Benjamin. They have seen what happened to Fidi Lipul. They have seen how Tato is bowing out, and then there are other persons who are still sick. There are persons who played before them who are living in very deplorable conditions. Is this a wake-up call for them to come together and see how they can take care for one another?
Yeah, Leo, is a wake-up call. Just to give you a reminder that Cameroon is the only country where the various entertainment sector are in disunity. Especially the worst is even the music sector. So the unity is not there. So I believe if they can come together in unity and create an association, we don't have a strong formal national team association in Cameroon. Players of the former national team or players who have played for Cameroon, whether it's football or whether it's football, volleyball, handball, because we have national handball team that represent Cameroon out of the nation, out of in other international competition. That solidarity team is not there. Like senior barrister cited the case of Bar. The Bar is united. It's not united because the head of state came and instituted unity. It's because they decided to be united. But within the sporting and the entertainment world as a whole, it's kind of chaotic, and it's due to much neglect and politicization of the system, where you choose to bring in politics in a system that is supposed to be apolitical and non-partisan, because you try to treat those who don't toe the line of a particular political ideology, or who don't support an agenda, like people who should not be given respect to, and those who are supposed to take leadership. You don't give them the position, you bring in politics. So I believe that we should keep away politicization of entertainment industry, and allow the entertainment industry should remain apolitical and non-partisan, and feed Cameroonians with the glamour. And this can only go a long way if the players themselves decide and say that, okay, we want to keep aside politics, we don't want politics in it. But how will they say that? Based on the financial aspect. How rainy is even the rainy days? How rainy is the rainy days? You look at how things are being done from the. Let me give an instance, Lou. When the Frekafoot elections were to be conducted in Boya, there was mass disunity, where a certain politician has his scam, this other politician has his scam. How do you expect these people to live in a social environment where there's that backbiting, money is pumping left and right? Politicians are involved in sports. They are chief stakeholders. We have politicians who are more called their names are big people in Frekafoot. They have never done a 100-meter sport, a 100-meter run-up in their institution when they were in primary school. But they are still heading sport institutions. Look like a typical example. In fact, it's an African context. DJ Drogba file was rejected the first time. He went now for the second time. But look at who are those managing the institution. People who are in parliament, who have dual functions. But look, Feka handball, let's not go far in Cameroon. Go and do your mathematics. There are big politicians who are there running it. But a handballer who has played handball from the primary school when he has given the country is not even in that delegation. And that politics now comes in when a politician man that institution, that politician say, okay, I want to remain this, being divide and rule. So when my appeal to these sport men and women is that they should shun away from politics and understand that at the end of the day, they'll be abandoned to themselves, so they should be more united and focus on the common goal. That is the solidarity among each other that we see in the pitch when they are playing. That when you score, they help you. When you are injured, they come to you. We should see that even out of the scene.
This is also a wake-up call to the authorities, sporting authorities of this country, because we saw their reaction when Masing died and Fidel Paul, and now Tato Stephen. We hear very little from the sporting ministry.
It's a wake-up call for them, because what they are supposed to be doing, they are not doing. The ministry is supposed to bring in, for example, bringing ideas to track the icons of the nation. I'm not sure if you ask the Ministry of Sports, they know where the former Indomitable Lions are. They don't know. For example, I'm not shocked to know that the ministry did not know where Tata was staying. They don't even know if he was alive or not. So it's actually a wake-up call. They cannot trace, if you ask them, who played for Cameroon from 1976 to now, they'll not track it. So I think that in other nations, they do this. They track them, they go, they take care of them, they do them interviews, they do documentaries on these icons, share, so that it continues. There's what we call data continues. So Mr. Lee, I think it's a wake-up call for our ministries and those in authority. And also for the players, like Mr. Jelly said, they have to unite among themselves. I think they do that in other domains. They go back to their icons, they are with them, documentaries and all the rest, and they take care of them. There should be an association for all these footballers, and finally, there's a lot we really need to do.
Good evening to you all in the studio. Captain Son was flight out for treatment, so why was it not the same situation for Tato? Is it because he's an Anglophone? Okay, I'm sure. Mr. Leo, good evening. It's Max from Boya. I think those old players have an association, but they are not being recognized by the powers that be. It's really a pity. Okay, Mr. Leo greets those in the panel today. Icons are not respected in Cameroon. How can a sick icon speak out? People knew Tata was sick. Where is Etame Maye? How did he leave the national team? Paul is writing from Bamenda. Good evening, Mr. Liu. I'm really enjoying your program. Keep it up. Jesus Jerry from Mutengene. Good evening to you, Jerry. Good evening in the studio to everyone. I'm Robert from Mok Lete. Being an important icon to the nation like Tato, he needs to have at least the president's contact, not passing through someone to get to the president for help. Okay. Hi, Mr. Liu. I'm Boris from Bamenda. Houses are given only to those that do bad jobs, like the president of the Constitutional Council. Okay. Yes, Mr. Liu, I'm following your program. You people, you are right. Talk about our Queen of the Mountain, Sarah Etonde. Okay, that is also somebody who has done a lot for the nation. Good evening. Yeah, she has a house, but is that house befitting? Is that house befitting for what that lady has done for Cameroon? Good evening, it's Edna Chia from Yaoundé. Please, let's ensure ourselves by saving for rainy days. Let's stop too much blames, okay? Good evening, Mr. Liu. There is no difference between entraînement and politics in Cameroon. For you have to be valued in Cameroon, you must be involved in the major political parties. Jessica Luis is writing from Douala. Let all Cameroonians take part and be accountable for all affairs of its countries, rather than these issues of man no man and nominations from Yaoundé. Good evening to you, Mr. Liu, and to everyone present there with you in the studio. I'm Elvis Nzi from Bamenda. I really do wish to congratulate everyone there in the studio for your comments, contributions to see that peace is being restored back to the English-speaking part of the country. We are enjoying the program from this end. Thank you very much. Good evening to you all. Just want to hail Mr. Emmanuel for his stance on social insurance. It's really necessary. Saidu Ali is writing from Kumba. Good evening. He was allowed to die in that manner simply because he's an Anglophone. Jibril is writing from Bamenda. I love your program. It's really revealing things that I never knew. Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Liu. I'm Deep Samuel writing from Funi Village. I'm sure I've taken that question. You say, look at Samuel Eto'o, who wanted to construct a football stadium, yet driven away. May God help us. Okay. You think that the problem? Look at Jean-Paul Akono, who is willing to put him the best. Okay. Good evening, Mr. Liu. Is sad. Stephen Tato is gone this soon. However, any time is the right time for death. But I think Cameroonians should learn to prepare for their retirement. I don't think government of other countries do it the way you think, but we have health and life assurance that can help. Senior Barrister Ashu, I love you. If you are still talking today, then I do not know if this country will ever change, because you have said it all. Christian is writing from Kumbu. Good evening. Hello, Mr. Liu and the panelists in the studio. Cameroon has no respect for heroes. The system in place is use and dump system. My condolences to the family of this fallen hero. Emmanuel is writing from Mutengene. Fidel is writing from Bamenda, says, good evening, Mr. Liu and Co. Please, I wish to ask why the government need to evacuate some people abroad for treatment. Is it that they were not being paid during their days of work? How important is a footballer to a teacher? Okay, we are going to end at this juncture. One last word to the players and the teachers, the musicians, everybody.
I want to extend my condolence to the family of Tato Stephen, considering the fact that he's coming from the land where I'm coming from. He was born in Ekona, grew in Ekona. He's one of those guys who made Ekona to be known out there, and we appreciate the fact that he carried the name of Ekona out of Cameroon. And apart from that, I pray that the other players whom had been abandoned should be looked after, because I believe that a veteran remains a veteran. After war, when you come back, they need to take care of you, and such should happen to all those who played before and in every other field, musicians in every other field and profession.
Okay, yes.
I wanted to say that unity is strength, and unity is not just strength in the domain when when you are in a health days, but when you are sick, that's when we know our friends. My plea is that the Minister of Sport, alongside his attaché, is not late to start keeping track of the players, not just in football, but wrestling and the rest, like we have Supermarket and the rest. And secondly, our lawmakers, like the MPs, should consider taking up bills that will protect the interests of these people who have post-traumatic stress as a result of their job. We are not saying that they are not being paid, but we should understand that with football, there's that post-traumatic stress in terms of how it's ongoing. So that's just what I have to say, and God bless all those who have been watching the program.
I just want to say that whoever is in charge of and whatever sector of the nation should try to work in order to assure for the common good of everyone, because if these things are all put in place, then we will not be complaining of what we are complaining here. Players, those in the football sector, handball sector, and other sectors that represent the nation, that are our icons, should be taken care of. And all of us, those on either side, we should work hard to bring peace to our nation.
Okay, we should work hard to bring peace to our nation. Senior Barrister.
Thank you. I think, like you said, this is a wake-up call for the Ministry of Youth and Sports to get up and identify and keep track of all our heroes and sports icons, because there is a lot that the younger generations can learn from them. If you take people like Jean-Louis Mama, Louis Pomfide, Leah, these were expert dribblers. Jean Manga Ongene. I mean, you need people like that to teach those dribbling skills to the young people. But they just forget them. They forget them then in oblivion, and they die with those skills. So I think that it is a nice thing to keep track of them, so that they can transfer their skills to the younger generations after they have left professional work. Now, then, to avoid this type of sorrowful situation, please let the Social Insurance Fund come up with a scheme to cover the footballers of all the divisions, including the professionals, so that we don't have this type of situation. It is not a nice thing for somebody who has been working to end up his life as a beggar.
Okay, it's not a nice thing. Okay. Good evening, Mr. Leo. It's Sky Dash Murata in Kumba. I'm enjoying your program here. It's top. God bless you all. God bless you too, Murata. Kili from Babenda says, I love this. Thank you very much, Kili. Good evening to you. Senior Barrister Ashu, you are a voice of the people. I'm writing from Muya. They respect sports in Cameroon. Why? Because they are looking for their personal interest. Look at the roots of some the fields like the one at Japoma in Douala. Very bad, and they are preparing to host a jamboree like AFCON. So bad. In thanks, I love your program. I'm in Muya. I'm called Fali, and God bless you people, and my brother Jarvis. We love you. Jarvis, yeah, guys from Muya are sending greetings. Good evening, Mr. Liu, and to the other great minds on the panel. It's really sad that our football icon Tato Stephen had to die so easily without any possible external assistance. I think this is a wake-up call for all those active in the football sector and other similar sectors. The experience should prompt them to embark on parallel skill development endeavors like schooling to acquire skills that could sustain them, especially after quitting football pitch. Relying only on football can be a risk, especially if the footballer does not make it to the highest level. Okay. Good evening, Mr. Leo, to you all in the studio. My worry is if a minister in Cameroon gives 2 savons in his community, he must say in the name of the head of state. Then what can we expect from sports minister? I'm Jonas from Bamenda. Good evening, Mr. Leo. Is Tanya Lizette from Kumba. I'm really enjoying your program. Thank you very much, Lizette. Good evening to you all. Tato's case is very shocking. Cameroon heads should remedy this faker food situation and value of veterans. Declan is writing from Bamenda. Good evening, Mr. Kum and Mr. Montoya from Tico. This calls for greater solidarity amongst players. I admire Barrister Ashu. Greetings to you all in the studio. Good evening, Mr. Liu. Decentralization and special status as old as the owner constitution of 1996. Since then, what change have we had? Roland is writing from Limbe. Hello, Mr. Liu, Barrister, and others. I love your program. I think reconstruction in the Northwest and Southwest can't work. Those heading the committee should be very careful. Okay. Gatuzu writing from Bamenda. I have to end at this juncture. I want to thank you all who took time off to follow the program, the production team. Thank you very much. Stay blessed. Bye bye.